What's up, my beautiful people? Welcome to episode 44. I'm Jennie O'Connor, and I help multi-passionate creatives slay imposter syndrome so they can grow their influence and self-promote with grace. Can I ask you guys a teensy favor? I am a guest speaker in my first ever masterclass series, which is like, whoa. And they are counting on me to get signups and tracking it. Just a little scary. I know that it is a big ask these days to allow someone entrance into your inbox. Pornographic verbiage not intended, but it's free. And I really don't want to let them down. The interviews are recorded, so you don't even have to show up live. And if you help assist out, I will reciprocate by voting for your cat wearing a costume in a photo contest for 271 days in a row, as my friend Bill can attest to. If that's what it takes, I'm your girl. The series is called Creating Your Perfect Work: How to Overcome Overwhelm and Create More Time, Space, and Focus to get highly paid doing work you love. Come on, you know that sounds good. To sign up, head to jennyo'connor.com/perfect work. And please do it soon. Like, maybe pause this episode and do it right now on your phone, because it starts on Monday and I'm not sure how long we'll have access to the recordings. Okay, thank you. I love you. And now for your regularly scheduled programming. Today, I am speaking with Danielle Uhl, who might be my soul twin because we have such similar aspirations when it comes to helping people. Danielle is a transformational business coach, helping business owners and multi-passionates build businesses they love so they can live life on their own terms. In addition to being a coach, she runs a photography business, a small virtual assistance agency, and she sings and performs all around the world. Her #WatchMe brand encourages others to rediscover their confidence and go after what lights them up, even if it's against the grain. Needless to say, I am super excited to talk to this woman. So let's do this. Hey, Danielle, how are you today?
I'm so well. How are you?
I am really good. I am so excited to have you on. I think that we have so much in common. It's pretty ridiculous. And actually, it's kind of more like you're who I want to be when I grow up, except that I think I might actually be older than you. So
I love that so much.
suffice it to say, I am just sort of enamored with all of the things you do. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you. So let's get started by, I ask everyone who comes on my show what it was like growing up for you in regards to having shiny object syndrome and being an everything enthusiast. Was it supported in your household?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like I've never been asked that one. I always love podcast interviews that are like that. It's like, ooh, good question, like new question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like it was a little bit like I definitely had different interests, whether it was different sports. I was in soccer for a while, and then I switched to basketball, and then I switched to horses. And some of that I was like doing, all in between. Plus, like I was very much into like creative writing, especially through high school. So like I always did that as well. I had a band in high school. Like I have always been the person who has done so many different things and like very much at the same time. And I don't feel like that was ever an issue until I like started my business. And then people were like, no, like you need to just choose one thing in order to be successful. And like, that's it. I'm like, that's not how I work. Like, that's literally not how my brain functions. Like, I can't do that. And I don't want to do that. So I feel like as a kid, it was fine. And like kind of dipping your toe in different things or just having different hobbies and being busy and doing things. But then it was like a whole new world, like entering entrepreneurship and like the business realm. So that was interesting, but I just continued to be like, no, like this is just who I am. I'm going to do whatever I'm interested in because that's what fulfills me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you like never wavered on that path, because it's hard when, conventional business wisdom is everything that we're not.
Really?
I remember when they were like, you have to put one thing on your business card. And I was like, but how do I do that? And it's not accurate,
Exactly.
Yeah, I ended up at one point I had like 5 different resumes for, this is my bartending resume. This is my copywriting resume. It's ridiculous. So, but you wouldn't say then that your parents were multi-passionate?
I don't think so. I think my dad was maybe, now I think about it to some extent, because he had a business. He's had a couple different businesses, I guess. Like he was a DJ and still is. So has done, DJing like weddings or private parties or different things like that, like literally since as long as I can remember. And he's still continuing to do that. So he's had that for many, many years. He also had like an like an AV kind of tech company doing like home theater systems and audio visual stuff like in people's homes, basically, for a handful of years while I was growing up. So he was doing like both of those at the same time, and he was always into music. So he would do that, in our basement and on the side. So like, now that I think about it, I feel like I don't feel like my mom was quite as much. Like she had some different hobbies, or like she rode horses with me and like had her job, but like she's been in her job for 30 years at this point, like pretty much same job, which is like so not me, but like great for her. So it's interesting to kind of think about where you come from, or like your parents, and maybe some of that multipassionate stuff of what stuck.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and honestly, everybody's different. I mean, which I guess makes a lot of sense, but I was trying to sort of formulate a theory about whether or not this was genetic, but everyone has like, one of my parents was, and one of my parents wasn't. I mean, that was the case for me as well. So my next question, you're married, right?
Yes.
Is your husband an everything enthusiast?
1000%. Yes, we are very much like, we're so different, but we're so the same. And I love our relationship, because like we both have our own things, and we have like some things together and definitely a lot of things separately too, but we both totally like respect each other's space and like creativity. So like, especially like when he's working on something and you can tell like the energy is just flowing for him and he just needs to work on it, I'm like, go do your thing. Like, I'll leave you alone, and like, please take as much time as you need. It's not like I get upset or like that crazy girlfriend or things like that. It's like,
yeah,
no, I get that. And he gets that for me too. So it's like, we definitely get each other when we're working on something and you're passionate, versus like those days where you just feel stuck or unmotivated and you just need to like spend the day watching Netflix or something. Like we just have such a good understanding for that. So he's a musician. He does so many different things in the music industry, in the music tech world, like from original to cover to all of the MIDI and wireless and tech pieces. Like I can't even explain everything, but yes. So we are both very creative, very multi-passionate as well.
amazing. I love that. Yeah. One of the guys that I interviewed who started this movement that is like bringing awareness to, he sort of has linked multi-passionate tendencies to neurodiversity. So it's like a movement for all of that. But he is, I think, convinced that you have to be in a relationship with another multi-passionate person for it to work. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I there's also that thing of like, we balance each other out, and like our parents who, were, one was and one wasn't, but it's fun to hear about relationships where you're like, he's in creator mode. I let him do his thing. He, gives me the same courtesy. I think that sounds really cool. It sounds like a fun dynamic relationship. So
I feel like it just works so well. Like I guess I get like the balancing each other out, but like even thinking about my parents or like other people, it's like at some point, like you're going to clash if like you don't have those same understandings for like, I just need this time, like whenever that may be, whether that's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon or like 3 a.m. and you haven't come to bed yet. Like it doesn't matter when it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that can be really hard for people if you're not on that same page. I've noticed that for like some of our friends who are definitely like in and doing a lot of things, or entrepreneurs, businesses like themselves. Like you kind of just have to have that understanding for it to work really well. But that's just
it might be like, it can work, but it might work better if you both are. Yeah. It's interesting. This is my research project. I'm just going to keep asking and see what the final conclusion is, but it does sound like, and kind of fun. We'll get into it, but you and your husband can work on projects together, which I think is also kind of awesome. Yeah. So I've been super excited to talk to you because you run not one, but 3 successful businesses, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This is amazing.
That sort of thing.
Okay. So you have a photography business, and that was your first like love in terms of career, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was really passion turned business. I started photography in high school, and a few years after I got out of high school, had my first digital camera. Like I was just literally taking pictures of anything and everything. I always had it with me. And it wasn't really until my younger brother, he's 4 years younger than me, when he was graduating and needed senior pictures, I took them. So he was like my first like real people subject, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And did his senior pictures. Some of his friends' parents asked me to take their kids' senior pictures. So that's really just a natural way of how it started. So I really just like fell into it at the time. Didn't know anything about business, just was like, okay, let's try this. Let's kind of do this thing. And long story short, lots of trial and error, lots of learning and growth, very slow growth, because it was also, I really started it as a side hustle of like, great, like this is a good way to make like money on the side from like my day job and things that I thought I wanted to do. So it was really slow growth getting started those first few years, but that was okay because there were, of course, a lot of other things that I was doing too. So it wasn't my only thing, but it was such a great way to be able to just realize that like I could actually make money doing something that I like truly loved. And especially like in art form for us creatives. I don't know if anyone else had this kind of starving artist mindset a little
Yes.
bit.
Yes. Talk about it. Yes.
I always, and I don't even really know where it comes from. Cause like I said, like my dad was always into music, and like my mom did art in like high school and stuff, but like I had this belief that like I could not do something that I loved, especially that was artistic, which is why I didn't go to art school. I just like didn't believe that I could actually do that and make money. So when I actually like got into this and realized like I can actually do photography or do something that's artistic that I love and make money doing it, like that was like mind blowing for me. So then of course, like naturally I was like, well, of course I want to do this more, but now I also want to help other people do this too. Like you should be able to love what you do and make money doing it. So that's really what stemmed the whole like birth of my next business, which was my coaching business, to help other, especially at the time when I started it, especially other creatives, other artists, to be able to do that, to make money doing something that they loved.
Yeah, I love it. And it's interesting because I think that our end game, like what we want to do, is almost the same, but our coaching styles are really different. And I'm into cooperation over competition anyway. Like, but I thought this was so cool because you utilize like specific tools in your methodology for your coaching clients. So talk a little bit about those.
Oh, yes, I have such a toolbox. I think that has become just one of my favorite things to do as a coach, is just learn all of these different tools and like ways that you can help your clients. Cause like coaching in general and just asking the right questions is so key, but having kind of these other tools in my back pocket just to really switch somebody's thinking. It's so, I could like nerd out on like neuroscience and how your brain works like all day, but like once you have that pathway created of like, this is what I believe to be true, whatever that is, about business, about life, about whatever, it's so hard to see something different, especially if you're like, if you think that you're right, right? You're like, no, but like, this is true. Like, I feel this to my core. I'm like, well, it's not a fact. And I think that was again, like something I really came to learn, and like why these tools were so much fun is like, cool, well, you think this way. Let's try to just disrupt that. And how can we use different tools to help you do that so that you can see that something else could be possible, which helps you change that belief. And like, once you change that belief, like everything else can happen. Like when you believe something different, you take a different action, you show up differently, you build your confidence. Or what I like to say is like, you rediscover your confidence. Cause I believe that that's like something innate within you, but you just have to like pull it back out of you and begin to trust yourself again. So by helping you do that, or using different tools to just disrupt that thinking, break that pattern a little bit, like it's just so helpful. You just are never sure all of the things that it can unlock until you do it. So I love having, I use NLP, neurolinguistic programming, CBT specifically for coaching, of course, not therapy. I love some personality tools that I've used with my clients. Human design's been a big one. the enneagram. Meyers Briggs I don't use quite in detail, but I do love some aspects of it. So usually, especially with my private clients, I'll use all three of those in tandem just to really understand them, their tendencies, their typical personalities, or what might kind of come up for them, which can look so different for everyone. But having that understanding just helped me dive into getting to know my clients so much quicker than just like spending that time with them. And like about a month or so, like I would say I got to know them and their tendencies very well. But with these personality tools, I feel like I can get that so much faster. So I love having so many of those tools. There's other, just like mindset journaling. I do like a shared journaling that I love to do through like a Google Doc to really pick apart their beliefs so you can start like using those tools. There's it's so much fun.
Yeah, that's great. No, I know that human design, like, would you say that's one of your favorite things to use?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. It's just crazy.
So all full transparency, I know nothing about it because like everyone's talking about it. I know I should explore it, but it is literally one of those, I'm like, it's a rabbit hole. I'm going to fall down a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
I know I will. I actually started listening to your episodes about human design and I was so compelled to go home. I was on a hike and I was so compelled to come home and then like figure out what I was. And I was like, I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah, once you have like a few hours, at least you can set aside and like pull your chart and like dive into it, even just a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
but is it, I know that I guess, Meyers Briggs, at least I've taken the enneagram test and I can't even remember what my number is right now, but Meyers Briggs, like even sort of tells you once you figure out your type, what jobs like people with your type tend to do best or be most drawn to, right? So does it kind of help people find their niche a little bit?
It could. That's not, it can. There's so many things I want to say. I love and hate that a little bit because I feel like it still kind of can put you in a box. Like maybe it can be helpful if it sparks something, but at the same time, if like none of those resonate for you for whatever reason, you're like, actually, like I like science and it's telling me to be a writer or like something like that, right? Like I feel like it can put you in a box. One of the reasons that I like Meyers Briggs is I really like it's like just the surface level part, but when it gives you like that acronym, it gives you those 4 letters, your results should basically give you those with like percentages. And I find that really helpful because kind of the go-to example that I always use is like, you're either introverted or extroverted, but that percent is going to be the thing that matters. So like if I've had like a client who was like 97% introvert, she is going to work way different than like another client I had who was like 65% introvert. Like she's going to have some of those where it's like, it still can feel good to be somewhat extroverted and have a lot of those extroverted tendencies, maybe even spending more time with people, but definitely giving yourself that space to like recover and rest and things like that, that alone time. That's going to be so different for that person than like the 97% introvert who like needs a lot of alone time and like needs to limit time with other people.
Sure.
So I like to know those because I use that from like a business standpoint too, to say like, cool, like if this is how you work, like 97% introverted, you are probably not going to be like, you're not going to want to start a business that involves cold calling or networking a lot or being in person with people 24/7. Like you probably are going to run like a very online business. Maybe you have a course that's like something that people go through that you can do behind the scenes that gives you that alone time instead of like having to be with people all the time. That's just going to drain you. So that's really how I use it. It's kind of surface level for Meyers Briggs, but it's really helpful, especially from a business standpoint.
Okay. And that's interesting. I hadn't thought that it could potentially be dangerous, like that you could find yourself feeling like you're being forced into a box, which as multi-passionates is something that we have spent our whole lives being like, I don't belong in that box.
Right.
Stop putting me in that box.
Box. I don't have boxes.
Yeah. Okay. But I just love that because I use my methodologies are like something else entirely. And so it's just so fun to hear you, especially because you just get so fired up about like human design in particular.
Right. I'm like, let me talk about it all day.
Yeah. I will get there eventually. We could talk way more more about it.
A lot of fun. It's so validating. I think that was one of the biggest things about it for me personally, and definitely with my clients, is you have a lot of just these tendencies for yourself that you've probably, and like human design calls it conditioning, but it's like your parents probably taught you, like, don't like think before you talk, or don't be so impulsive, or, don't do this or be this way. You've been conditioned by so many other people who work differently for you. So like that could work really well for them. Whereas like I had a great example, just for a short example, is one of my manifestor clients. She 100% is a manifestor and I love it. And she definitely has like parents who told her like, don't be impulsive, think before you speak. And like for her, like that's literally the way that she works. She's designed to speak her mind and inform people and just talk things through and be impulsive or spontaneous, because that's what helps her feel really good. That's also what helps her make the right decisions for her. And by somebody else who doesn't work like you telling you don't do that, like it can be so confusing. So just having that to be like, no, like if you've ever done this, and especially if you've been told to not do this, like this is actually how you work. So trust that for yourself. I think that's the biggest part, is just understanding how you work, giving you insight to like, it's okay. Like you're supposed to work this way, having that validation, and then just leaning into that to build that trust with yourself. That's like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's okay. This is how you're designed. That has been so tremendous for me and so many of my clients.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I have a whole episode about examining your beliefs about things and how many of them aren't yours.
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying, that that's absolutely huge and game changing when you're like, wait, that doesn't belong to me. That isn't mine.
Totally.
Like, yeah, stop making me want to go explore this as soon as I hang up with you, Danielle.
It's when you find it out, we'll have to have another talk.
I'll call you. Okay. So your third business is a virtual assistance agency. Please tell me that's you managing a team. Like you cannot possibly have time to be anyone's virtual assistant, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to say so many things. This was such a great thing to start. And I love that I did this from both. Basically, how I started it is this was me transitioning from leaving my day job, kind of having something a little bit more stable at the time, because I mean, we could talk about when's the right time to leave your business, quote unquote, is like, there's never the right time and it's going to look different for everyone. For me, like I literally needed to leave in order to put my time into my businesses to like get them to where I needed them to be. So I did not leave with like, oh, I've replaced my corporate salary or whatever, like some of those things did not. So I really started virtual assistant stuff as that transition, just as something a little bit more stable. I could have, clients that I would work with every month. So it was a little bit more stable than some of the other things that I did, especially photography, since it's more seasonal. So it was such a great way to transition. And then as I built up my client base, I was able to hire on my husband while he transitioned out of like his day job at the time, which was basically he taught music at a school and he wanted to just stop teaching. He was really burnt out for a while and focus on some of his other, many of his other music ventures. So I was able to hire him on like part-time and be my first basically subcontractor to subcontract out some of that work that I was doing. So that was great because then it helped him transition. So it was like a really good transition business. And then I had a virtual assistant at the time. I also hired as a subcontractor. So I started to like build this team and it was actually pretty easy. Like I found that it was just kind of growing. I've never had a website for it. I've never had social medias. I literally have a Google Doc of information that I send potential clients. So like it just felt so easy than my other two businesses to just keep on. So it was easier to grow and continue to just build a team and have them, like I acted more as project manager while they did most of the work. Since then, I will say this is something I'm starting to phase out just because it was a transition business. It really was never my passion, but it was something that I could do. Since then, I only have one more client. I still have technically both of my subcontractors, but just doing the specific things that they have been doing. So I'm starting to kind of dissolve it, like when the time's right. but it's been so great to be able to just like have that experience, especially for like my clients who also are a virtual assistant or freelancer of some sort, of like having that experience in that industry and just so many things. It's connecting with like the clients that I helped too. Like that has just been great in so many different ways. And they've been such great clients to work with, plus just like good networking people to like have in my network, in my back pocket and everything too. So it was so good. Now it's just like, cool. Like I want to focus more where my passion is.
Yeah.
And that's not one of them. So I'm starting to kind of dissolve it, but it's been so great and just such a journey.
Yeah. Don't you think that being multi-passionate, like, gives you the ability to be good at something that's like that wasn't even your passion, but like it kind of fell into your lap. You were like, I can do this and I can teach other people to do it and I can manage them while they're doing it and like make it a success, even though it's not, you didn't go to business school for that or something. Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's sort of a skill that's like uniquely ours, that we can do a lot of things well, even though we're masters of none.
Right. I was going to bring that up. I'm so glad you said that. It's like jack of all trades, master of none. I hate that so much.
So do you know, I just posted this. This is why we need to follow each other on Instagram. I just posted this like 2 days ago. Did you know that there's another sentence to that quote?
No. What is it?
A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Okay. Why don't we ever hear that whole part?
Who did that? What diabolical plot was in place to never tell anyone that was actually a compliment, to let us go through our whole lives thinking that we're broken?
I have goosebumps right now. That's so
I know. I posted it online because I was like, everybody, because I have like obviously multi-passionate followers. Totally. I was like, y'all need to hear this. And they were like, what? I had no idea. And I know. And it was actually a very good friend of mine who just told me like 3 months ago, and my head kind of exploded. I was like, what? Yeah. Why?
I love that so much.
Yeah. So now you can start to say it with pride, and I had to like kind of, add the caveat of like, I'm not knocking specialists. The world needs both of us. Absolutely. No one wants me to do brain surgery on them, but I like to say I would be useful as fuck in a zombie apocalypse, because I swear to God,
I love it.
I can sew clothes for you. I can like project manage anything you need managed. There's just so many things that my skills would be useful if we had to like restart civilization.
I love that. Yes. It's so true. I always found that in the corporate world too, like as much as people talk about like getting hired, it's like better to be a specialist, which like give or take the company or whatnot. But I was always the person who, this might be my job, but what else can I do? Like what other departments can I help, or what can I get a hand in, or be a part of like this group or this project or whatever. Like that was always me. And like, anytime I think I don't ever want to go back to the corporate world, but like, if I ever did, like, that's like business is what I'm good at. Like you literally like put me anywhere. It doesn't matter. Like I'll figure it out because of all of the skills. I don't have to be good at just one thing to succeed. And like, even more so, it's like, I can help you more if you don't put me in a box, right? Like,
you don't put me in a box. I know.
Around like, this is your job responsibilities and duties, and that's it.
Yeah. You are this one thing on your business card.
Yes, exactly.
No, I am not. I love that. And I just love the more of us out there spreading the word that it is okay to be this way.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so important. We can go out and show people just how useful we are. I think that it's a mistake when companies are hiring. I mean, granted, unless you're hiring a surgeon, we'll go back to that.
Fair.
Yeah.
An attorney of like a special place in the law or segment.
100%. But that's what this movement, this gentleman, Perry Knoper, who I interviewed, he's trying to teach corporations how, if you put together a think tank with a combination of like, seek out multi-passionate people who think in a non-linear way, and then seek out some people who think in a linear way and put them together in a think tank, like amazing stuff can happen. So I really believe that to be true.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about it. You have, okay, you're phasing out one of your businesses, but for all intents and purposes, you have 3. How do you manage all of the things?
Love that question. I get that so often. Yeah. I mean, like we were kind of talking about before recording, First of all, like processes, policies, just having like some structure as much as like, I feel like a lot of multi-passionates or creatives, it's like, be flexible, have some flow to it, like have some freedom. Like we need that space to be able to just like thrive and like jump from thing to thing. But having some structure can be so helpful. I know like I use Trello specifically for mostly like managing my projects and things like that. Like I have all my podcast stuff in one board. I have all of my content in one board, which is so helpful, especially like when you are ready to like hire an assistant yourself or start hiring a team. Like it's so helpful to have everything in one place and to like build it that way initially so that you're not kind of having to do all of that when you're trying to hire and grow, and you're probably busier anyway, which is why you need the assistant. So I've always really loved like creating SOPs, like standard operating procedures.
I know. I was just going to say, like my SOP.
Yes. Love processes just because like it's another piece of it that I have found, especially being multi-passionate and just like brain kind of all over the place, is it takes some of that making decisions away where it's like, cool, like this is my process. I literally don't even have to think about it. Like I have a podcast interview, or I onboard a new client, or whatever it is, I offboard a new client, I'm launching something, like I have a process for those things. So like, I don't have to think about, okay, what am I going to do first? Then what should I do? And like spend time thinking about it. I literally just go to, here's my process. Here's what I'm doing. Here's where my assistant can help me or not. Here's what I need to get done or not. And then of course, getting it on my calendar, Google Calendar, I could not live without it. I'll be honest, especially just as a multi-passionate, whether you have a business or not, like having a Google Calendar, getting things on it. And sometimes that's, my daily, like my mindset routine, or when I just eat dinner so I don't forget to eat, or like personal things, meetings for sure. When I'm going to work on certain things in my business, like getting it scheduled on there. I will say, again, I need some of that flexibility. So it does not always get done at the time it's on there, unless it's a meeting, usually, right? Scheduled at a certain time, but I will kind of move things around, but then at least it's on the calendar. So I don't have to worry about that thing until that day comes. And then if you need to move it to the next day, like, cool, I can make that decision, but it's not like up in my head. I'm not continually thinking about, okay, these are all the things I have to do. Usually what I do is I do like a brain dump to-do list, prioritize them or get them organized, put them on my calendar, and then like, don't even think about it until you have to do it. And that's basically how I function, I would say, is just keeping myself organized that way. I always go to like my brain dumps anytime there's something in my head. That way I can just get it organized and I cannot feel overwhelmed by having so many things on my to-do list or on my calendar, because 3 businesses is a lot, plus just all of the different things that me and my husband do. We also like sing and play music, and we're traveling next week. And
tell me, that was my next question anyway. Tell me a little bit about that. Cause so that's obviously just like for fun, or that's like his thing, right?
It is. Yeah. So it's been really fun. So music is his thing. Like that's what he does full time. He does it in very many aspects, but he has so many different bands, corporate bands, cover bands, original bands that he's a part of. So he's always done that. More recently, within the last 4 or 5 years, we've started playing more together, which is fun because like I used to do that a lot more and then kind of let it go for a little while and then start getting back into it. But it's great because like I love to sing. That's always been such a hobby of mine. And now I get to do that and make money doing it, but without really having to manage like the business side of it, which has been so fun for me because he either does the booking or we have 1 or 2 of the other bands that I like am a fill-in for or do some shows with. Like they do all the booking, they do all the coordination, things like that. So like I just get to show up and sing and get paid to make money doing it. So, and then we've also worked with a couple of the resorts to travel and play music and get to have a vacation too. So we're doing that in, what is it now? We leave on Tuesday. So like 4 days from now ish, where we're going to the Dominican for 16 days to go play music at their resort and lay on the beach.
That's what you're doing while you're there. You're like combining your vacation with work.
Yeah, it's so great. We play like, usually it's about like an hour a night, and then like the rest of the day is ours. So I usually, bring my laptop, do some work, and then play on the beach or go do all the things that they have at the resort. And
that's literally my dream life.
I go to the spa,
that's amazing. Oh my God. I love that so much. So I'll be like, I also love to sing. I'm kind of a chicken about it, but I worked off and on for 15 years in LA at a bar where I was told very early on, if you don't sing, it was a karaoke bar every single night. If you don't sing, we will get you fired. It was the threat.
That's a compliment, right?
No, I mean, they didn't care if you could sing or not. They were just it's just a requirement. I mean, these were the customers telling me that, but, okay. I started to do it. My uncles are in a band, and one night, no one showed up to one of their gigs, which is sad. And you don't want that for anyone, but I was like, can I sing with you guys since there's like no one here, and then it won't be scary. And like doing that was now I've lived my dream. So the fact that you really do it is just so incredible. But since we're on the topic of karaoke, tell me about you photographing. What are the World Karaoke Championships? I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either. I didn't either till it all happened. But yeah, oh my God. So fun story. I'll like shorten it for the sake of time. But basically the year that it was my goal to leave my corporate job. I didn't know how it was going to happen. Really, my businesses were not where I wanted them to be able to do that. But I knew like it was going to happen that year, some way, shape, or form. It was going to happen. So I basically told myself I was going to like say yes to like any and every opportunity that came, just because I was like, that's just, I don't know how else. I'm just going to do this and just see where it takes me. So long story short, I got connected with the national director of the World Karaoke Championships. They had their US National Karaoke Championships that they were hosting in Las Vegas, and talked to him. It was kind of a funny conversation because he couldn't pay me, which I was like kind of cautious about. However, he would pay for the flight, he would pay for my stay and like food and stuff like that. So like everything was covered.
Okay. I would still do it for that. So,
right. Well, I did, but it was funny because I said yes to that. I was still in my day job. So I like asked, I was like, so short notice, but I'm going to be gone for 3 days next week. Is that all right? And kind of told him what was going on. I had a great team. It wasn't a bad job by any means. I just didn't love it and wanted to do my own thing. So they were super, super supportive of it, and got to go to Vegas. And they were like 3 all day, like 12-hour days. I was like shooting and on my feet and editing. And like, it was, I remember being in that hotel room being like, why did I say yes to this? Like, this is terrible. But it did totally pay off. It was worth it. I connected with the world producer of that company at the championships there, and reached out to him after I got back home and everything, saying, he wanted me to send him a picture that I took of him singing. So I did, and told him, I remember sitting in my cubicle and thinking, I really wish that he would ask me to shoot the world championships that they were going to host in Helsinki, Finland. And it was just such a funny conversation I had with myself in my head, because I just remember like wishing that he would ask me. And I was like, why don't you just ask? Like, you can literally just ask this question. So I did. I told him.
Love that.
Yeah. It was like a come to Jesus moment with myself a little bit, but just asking the question of like, hey, if you need someone to shoot, like, I'm totally interested. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, like, you let me know, like, I'll be there. So that ended up working and turning into a paid shoot to go to Helsinki, Finland, shoot the World Karaoke Championships. There were like 20 countries a part of it. It was such a performance. It was so cool. And my husband and I turned it into a 2-week Europe vacation. That was the trip that I chose to leave my day job and put in my notice, mostly because I didn't have 2 weeks vacation time, but I knew I was going to do that. And I was like, this is just all like really like divine timing. Like, this is the time I'm going to do it. So I put in my 2 weeks. We went on this 2-week Europe vacation, shot the World Karaoke Championships in Finland and came back as a self-employed entrepreneur.
I love everything about that story. That is an amazing story. I have so many friends that are very, very into karaoke and extremely talented. And I don't think even they know that there is a championships world. Like, I didn't know that was a thing.
It's so funny. I didn't either. I feel like it's kind of like this underground thing, but like if you're in that community, it's huge.
Yeah.
And the other part, I was so surprised, especially like in Vegas, but even when we were in Finland too, the people who were a part of that or who went to it and everything, like they like lived and breathed karaoke. Because like,
Right.
Again, like these, especially in Vegas, like it was like a 12-hour day for 3 days straight. And yet as soon as they got done, they would go to like another bar or wherever to go sing more
karaoke. I know. Cause I have friends that are exactly like that.
Diehards, I tell you.
Is that, do you think like what happens when you don't have the confidence to just go try out to be on Broadway? Or is that just, I don't want to be on Broadway. I just want to sing karaoke in a bar. Like, I don't know.
Oh, I don't really know. It was really interesting just to see just all the different types of people. Cause like some of them did do some performing arts and like, you could tell by like the songs that they chose and everything. Like some of them really liked more of like the musicals and performances and theatrical settings. Some of them liked like the really like hardcore, like rock songs, ballads and things like that. There was a lot of Queen.
Of course there was.
So many different things. Like it was just, but that was the cool thing about it, especially the World Karaoke Championships too, because then you got more of like the cultural pieces of it and like even some songs in like different languages and just the songs that they choose and their voices were phenomenal. Especially like, at that one, it was like the best of the best. And it's like, why aren't you doing more things? Or
that's
like,
what I mean. I mean, the talent is there. It's not about not being talented enough. I do wonder if it's about not having the confidence, but you're right. Like if you're not singing Broadway stuff, then this is the place for you. But what a fun experience to have as a result of you being a photographer. Like it's just kind of a random serendipitous thing for that to happen. I love that.
It was, and that's one of my favorite things to shoot too, is like concerts. And really my favorite thing to shoot is other people doing what they love. So like whether it's performing, or singing or dancing, like those are my favorite because you can just tell they love what they do. And I get to capture that versus like anyone can just take like a family portrait, but really capturing like that essence of like, you can tell like they're in their element. Like that's my favorite.
How fun that like kind of brings everything full circle for you. Like you in your element, helping other people be in their element and then photographing them while they're in their element.
Yes.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So there's just one other thing that I really wanted to make sure that we talked about. Are talking to another multi-passionate person who has more than one business. What is your advice for helping them grow? Like to scale businesses when there are several things happening simultaneously sounds really big and overwhelming and challenging. How do you recommend that people go about that?
I love that. I love that question. I feel like there's so much noise everywhere. Let's be real. So it's like, you have to do it this way, or like, there's so many things you can try. Really what I have stuck to for myself or like my clients, especially who have multiple businesses, is like knowing your sales process, like knowing your marketing strategy and like what works for you in your business, and either like continuing to like just dive in that and like do that, whether that's expanding to like a little bit of a new market or just double downing on the thing that you're doing that's working. Like knowing that I feel like is so key because there's so much time and money, let's be real, that you can spend trying new things and like, let's throw some money at Facebook ads. Let's throw some money at this advertising. Let's try this out. Like that is not going to be the thing that helps you. Really the thing is like understanding what works for you and then continuing to do that and build off of that, or kind of like layering it a little bit where this thing works. So like, how can you continue to work it, but like build on that a little bit. So knowing that, first of all, instead of spending your time in so many places, so because in two different businesses, those things are going to look different. So it's not just about like for two businesses, just posting on social media, doing ads for both and doing this for both, like you don't have to do all of it. It's just focusing on, okay, what works for, I'll use my examples, like what has worked for my photography business, continue to do those things, continue to work that and build off of it. And same thing for like coaching, like that looks very different. My strategy for that looks different. So focusing on what works and building that. And one of the things I know that has helped me, especially in those two main businesses, is I know that like photography for me is more seasonal, or in any business or industry, really, like you are naturally going to have seasons of business where you're going to be busier, or maybe you're going to have a launch or like something like that, where there's going to be a little bit of these like peaks and valleys. That's so helpful to understand so that you can leverage that between your businesses to kind of like, I like to think of it as like teeter totter your energy.
Alternate. Yeah.
So, if you're busy, if you're launching something in one business, like naturally your time and energy cannot go to both things. I think that's a huge thing for multi-passionates is you don't have to have like a 50-50 balance. You're never going to have like a balance of your time, your energy, your money, anything that you're investing into it balanced. Instead, like it gets to fluctuate, and that might look like seasons in your business. That might also look like just your energy toward it. Like maybe you are just really feeling burnt out or not excited or unmotivated about one of your businesses or whatever. I know I've gone through different times in that where it's okay to rest. It's okay to like let that one dip a little bit and focus on the other one. Sometimes maybe that may mean focusing just on one, which is okay. Just letting yourself rest from the other. But most of the time, you're probably going to do like a minimum of what you do for, say, your marketing strategy or something, but you're not really putting in more effort or time or anything, and you're focused on the other one. Also okay. So it's never, I don't really like to use the word balance because it's never balanced. You're going to fluctuate your time and energy between them, and just leveraging that and knowing like where your time and energy needs to be for each one to kind of build up each and kind of teeter totter back and forth. That's going to be so more helpful for you, knowing what you're doing, knowing where you're spending your time, knowing that it's okay not to have that balance, but having more of a fluctuation between it.
Yeah, that's so smart. I gave up on balance a long time ago.
It's never going to work, and I don't expect it to work for anyone.
I have a like everyone has a morning routine that they talk about, and I have like 40 things on my morning routine. And so if I get 3 of them done, then tomorrow I try to move down the list and do like the next 3. Forget trying to get them all done in a day. It's just that will never happen for me. So it's funny because I was just having this conversation with myself and I was like, balance is just not going to be a thing. Like, I don't think that, balance is look at your life in segments of a week or a month. Did you get all those items checked off the list? You did. Awesome. You're balanced. Good girl.
Right. All what you want.
But I do like this notion of sort of like strategic. You can be strategic about the seasons of your businesses and like slide them so that they kind of, when one is ebbing, the other one is what you're giving your time to. So that's really, really smart. And I hadn't thought of it that way before. So I really like that advice. I think that's really good.
I don't think I would have either. It was more like learning from experience. One of the biggest things that comes to mind is like my fall for photography is my busy season. Like that will always and has always been like be my best times in business, my best like revenue months in business. That's where I spend definitely a lot of time shooting, but then since I'm working like on photography anyway, like that's where I spend a lot of promotion and things like that. So I really do focus a lot of time and energy there during the fall. So I know, especially for coaching, it's like, don't launch anything in the fall, like wait till you're coming down from that to like launch something. And then ideally, have something going for the end of the year, because then January is dead for photography, right? So it's like, learn your seasons and learn how to work that between your 2 or 3 or whatever you have going on, different businesses, so that it makes sense. And especially from like personal, like income standpoint and everything like that has really helped with my finances, just knowing like, it's okay that January is completely dead with photography because fall is busy, but now like I have coaching coming in January.
Right? Launch in January. Yeah. It's so smart. And I just needed you to say it for me to be like, that's it. That's the move right there. I love it. Brilliant. Thank you. Tell me, you have a favorite book that you recommend all the time. What is it?
Yes, I am obsessed with Tama J. Keeves. Her book, Inspired and Unstoppable, it's literally been like my Bible for entrepreneurship and just going after, especially for us multi-passionate, it's like going after what lights you up, what you're passionate about, really trusting like your inner voice and just like that push for you that you have, like that internal knowing, that internal push of like, I want something different or I want something more. And even though logically that may not make sense, you just like have that feeling. Like that book just speaks to that so much. I feel like I reach for that book daily. I have it on my desk. I keep looking at it, but that has been just such a godsend. It has so many great words of wisdom. Her journey as well has just been so much of that, like corporate lawyer turned like artsy and book writer and coach and everything. Like I just love her to pieces, and that book changed my life.
I'm excited. I've never heard of it, so I'm going to go look it up. I'm going to fall down so many rabbit holes after this conversation.
A lot of homework after this, apparently.
So last but not least, tell my audience where they can find you if they want to learn more about you.
Yes. So I hang out mostly on Instagram. So come find me on Instagram or my podcast. I definitely share a lot of multi-passionate tips, lots of business tips as well on there. Lots of free value. So those are probably the best two places. Podcast is anywhere you can listen to podcasts. It's called #WatchMe, Life, Mindset, and Business for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And it's really, really good, you guys. I listened to like 5 episodes in a row. So I can recommend it wholeheartedly. More good stuff like this about how to pursue your multi-passionate dreams and make a life doing what you love. So I love it. This has been such a joyful conversation. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I cannot wait to talk to you again soon.
I totally agree with that. I'm so glad we connected. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Take care and we'll talk soon. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If you found this content valuable enough to warrant a tip, you can show your appreciation by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Jennie O'Connor. Or you can support the show by rating and reviewing and coming to hang out with me on the socials at Your Creative Fairy Godmother. Once again, I'm going to humbly request that you sign up for the free masterclass series that starts on Monday. It's going to be bomb, you guys. I have a really good feeling about it. Renessa Bowley Lane, who is hosting it, has this really awesome energy, and I'm just extremely honored to have been considered. Once again, that link is jennyeoconnor.com/perfect work. Until next time, y'all, I love your faces and I want to tell you that you're awesome and you're doing great. Now get on out there and do the thing.